So he heads into this weekend with 101 career points, which is great to see, and a huge congratulations to Marty, because that's really not easy to do.
Yeah, and from a defensive standpoint, maybe a little bit inconsistent. That might be the one thing the Cardinals will be looking to shore up as they move forward in the conference play.
No question, and you talk to Coach Moore, and he harps on the numbers of that exact thing a lot in saying they're 7-0 when they hold their team, their opponent under 3 goals. So they are good when they can play good defensively. And right now that defense is a little bit inconsistent. Their last 2 losses have been both 6-5 overtime losses, and so both times you can't give up 6 goals and expect to win too many games. And on the flip side, you score 5 goals, you really kind of expect to win. And unfortunately, twice in the last 4 games, they've given up the 6 to take a loss.
Well, and speaking of scoring goals, the women's hockey team, the last time we talked, Donnie, they had trouble scoring goals. That was sort of the Achilles heel this year. However, this past weekend in a doubleheader with St. Thomas, they did start to score some goals. I thought looked much better offensively. They scored a couple of goals in each game, and they come away with a tie and a loss against a very good St. Thomas team.
Yeah, and as you said, when we talked about the men's team about giving up and scoring, actually St. Mary's kind of did both of those. They scored 2 goals, but they only held their opponents to 2 goals in the Friday night game, a 2-2 tie, and then gave up an overtime goal in a 3-2 loss in the second game. But I know Coach Manor was actually probably more happy with the way the Saturday game, the loss turned out, in that they were down 2-0, came back with 2 big goals in the third period, and that's kind of what was important to see, because as we've said for several weeks, offensively they are struggling, and for them to come off of a 2-2 tie, give up 2 early power play goals on Saturday and fall behind 2-0, for them to claw back and get it to 2-2 was a great performance on their part. Unfortunately, weren't able to at least salvage the tie like they did the night before. But Jane Hanula had a really good weekend with a goal each game, so she's playing very well, providing some offensive spark, and hopefully they can continue that this weekend, as they've got Hamlin for 2 games.
Yeah, and we had that St. Thomas Friday night game right here on HBC TV 25, and I thought another player that stood out besides Hanula was Bailey Wendt. She always seems to be around the puck and really playing fast and playing well.
Yeah, she's playing very well, and I think it's that adjustment, that she's got that year under her belt now, and I think she's starting to get comfortable and realizing that the Cardinals are going to need her. She needs to step up her game, and really has done a great job of that. In goal, you got to give credit to both Ashley Corcoran and Mara Shields. They both had 41 saves against the Tommies, so they're playing very well. And if they can continue to get good goaltending, and they can get their offense going the way it's kind of started to go now against St. Thomas, I look for some big things as the conference season winds down now.
Yeah, and one last thing on that Friday night game, that was this close to a victory, right? Because St. Thomas scored with just a couple of seconds left in regulation, and then it ended up being a scoreless overtime period. So that one very easily could and maybe should have been a win.
No question. You've got 2-1 with less than basically less than 10 seconds to go in the game, and you come up with a tie. That stings a little bit, and to give up the early overtime goal in the second one, so those are a couple of games that I'm sure that Coach Manor would have liked the outcome to be different, but you also got to find the positives, especially after coming off of a back-to-back shutout losses to Lake Forest to kick off the 2017 part of their schedule. So I think that things are kind of moving in the right direction for them, and hopefully they can keep that going this weekend against Hamlin.
All right, indoor track and field, we're back in action there for the Cardinals, women and men, and good to have track back. And Jovan Newsom, with the Cardinals home invitational to get things started, really stood out.
Yeah, picked up right where he left off with the cross-country season. A great performance in the mile, and he just blew away the field. And St. Mary's did finish 1-2-3 in the event, but Sherman Moga was 30 seconds behind Jovan, so it was like the Jovan's race and then everybody else, and I think that you're going to see a lot of that this year with him, in that he's determined to make sure that this track season's his best one, and being that it's his last one, I think that that's certainly going to be the case. Andrew Alleman and Ty Romy each had first place finishes for the men, and Becca Dupe and Molly Sweet did a great job on the women's side, and I think that Becca's going to really do some things in the long jump. I think that's going to be the event of all of the events she competes in. That's going to be the one that she's really going to excel in. And as we talked last year with her, it's pretty interesting how successful she's been, especially considering that last year was the first year she's ever even competed in the long jump. So we're looking for big things from all of those that we mentioned, and certainly several others. A great start to the indoor season, and I know Coach Anderson is looking forward to big things from this team. Again, they're back in action this weekend at the Stout Open, and hopefully they can just keep it rolling.
Yeah, eventually we'll get Niels Anderson here on the program and get his insight on the team. It appears, at least on paper early on here, to be a pretty deep team. So it looks like depth is going to be important.
Yeah, and we're not just talking numbers either. I think that the depth is talented as well. And so I think that is something that Coach Anderson is excited to see. A lot of young runners. So there's going to be people that he's got to see a couple of meets to see how they're going to adjust, and it's going to be a fun indoor season, and I'm looking forward to seeing what some of these people can do over the next several weeks.
The swimming and diving team, now they had a little training trip over the Christmas break. What can you tell us about
they
that?
headed to Florida and got some training in, and I know that Coach Bartholomew came back, and she's excited about where things are at with them, and they had a big meet at Luther this past weekend, the Luther Sprints, and several outstanding performances. I know we talked Joe Tonda every meet, and he again had a very impressive meet. He swam in four events, and when you swim in 4 events in a day, that's a lot. Lucas Garad's had a great meet as well. He was a very busy person as well, and Zoe Schatz on the women's side, again, very solid performances. And it's kind of one of those, let's get our feet back in the water, let's start getting into competition, because middle of February rolls around really fast, and the MIC championships really are right around the corner.
Yeah, so, and now it seemed like multiple swimmers participated in a number of events, so it wasn't just 1 or 2 of them.
Right, and I think that's kind of the way this meet is set up. It's all sprints. There's not a lot of distance events, so I think that it just gives you a chance to maybe try some different events and see how that goes, and really kind of get back into the competitive frame. You can go on a training trip and train, but to go into the pool against another team is really where you kind of see where you're at, see where your training's at as you get ready for the final push here before the conference championships.
I think HBC needs to send us for training, and Florida sounds like a perfectly fine spot to do
it. It does sound like a really good spot right about now.
All right, let's go to women's basketball now before we bring in Wylie Ferron from the men's team. And the women's basketball team, over the Christmas holiday break and into the new year, they have continued to play very well. Every game seems to go down to the wire. Very exciting games. The Cardinals primarily have come out on top, Donnie, but they did have a 5-game winning streak snapped by just 2 points when they played at their last game here.
Yeah, and you talk about things going down to the wire. Their last 2 games have both been decided by 2 points. 3 of their last 4 have been decided by less than 6 points. So very tight games. And I think that the nice thing to see about that is that aside from the St. Ben's game, you get all these close games, and St. Mary's is finding a way to come away with the win. And that's really the sign of a very good team in that, you may not be playing your best, and yet you're in games right to the end. And the St. Ben's game is another good example of that. It certainly wasn't one of their better performances, and I know Coach Pollard would probably be shaking his head up and down that they did not play all that well, and yet right down to the very end, they're in that game. They unfortunately came away with a 47-45 loss, but they're finding ways to win those close games, and that's very important as you start the second half of the season right now, and sitting in 4th place right now in the conference standings, and so they're right in the thick of that playoff chase, and I know that as we head into the weekend, we've got the St. Thomas game on Wednesday, and then Concordia kind of starts the second half of the season, and they're in a good spot to make the playoffs again this year.
Well, and the other thing too with that St. Ben's game, that was that 2-point loss in their last game here, and that was uncharacteristic in that they just didn't get a lot of scoring. I mean, that was a defensive battle for both teams.
No question, and it was for me when you're looking at the recap. It's the first time in a long time you don't mention Brandy Blattner's name as one of the scoring leaders, and Alexa Huseman was the only player in double figures with 12 points, and I think it was a defensive battle. And I guess if you want to find the positive in that game, you held St. Benedict to 47 points, which is a great defensive performance. St. Ben's shot 25% from the field. So defensively, they did a very good job. It's the first time this year offensively that St. Mary's really struggled, and hopefully they can turn that around against the Tommies and moving forward.
Well, speaking of close, exciting games, the men's basketball team has certainly had their share of those types of games. And we'll bring in Wylie Ferron, a senior on the team, to talk about that and tell us a little bit more about himself. That's coming up next here on HBC. And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25, and we're going to focus now on men's basketball, and I'll give you one guess as to which of us three is the men's basketball player. Didn't take long, did it? Wylie Ferron from the men's basketball team, post player, now a senior at St. Mary's. Thanks for joining us. And Wylie, this is your first time on the Cardinals Nest, so first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about you. So tell us where you're from, how you sort of got started and interested in playing basketball, and sort of your progress that you made and why you eventually landed at St. Mary's.
Yeah, I'm from Waconia, Minnesota, just west of the Twin Cities. I kind of just grew up. My brother started playing basketball, started playing with him outside, became really interested when I started getting taller than the rest of my family. Really got into it in high school, started playing some spring ball. That's where I kind of got interested in playing college basketball. Then sooner or later I got a call from Coach Ostoven when he was still at Platteville. So I was looking to kind of go there first. Then he called me about in May saying he got the job at St. Mary's. So I came down here, loved the campus in the springtime. It's always beautiful down here. So then got here in fall and started the journey. So
you're saying spring is a great time to recruit, right?
Of course. Oh yeah.
No question. Well, we're glad that you're here, and I think as I look at the growth of the program over the last few years, you really mirror that growth, because I think the team is more competitive. You're playing at a higher skill level. And just everything about the program seems to be on the way up. And that's sort of been the way your career has gone here at St. Mary's since your freshman season. So maybe talk about that development for you from freshman to senior year now.
Yeah, when I got here freshman year, before the season even started, I'm thinking we're going to be competitive. We're kind of in the gym, we're getting up shots, playing open gym. And then first season rolls around, and then I realized, wow, this is a lot harder than high school basketball. So then we didn't have too much success in my first season. Really was a wake-up call going into my sophomore year. Got in the gym, got up some good shots, did some more work. And then we're more competitive my sophomore year, but still not where we wanted to be in the program. Didn't win over 5 games. So that was a really wake-up call. 2 years gone by, we haven't really done anything. My next year, I stayed down in Winona over the summer. Really got in the gym every day. I had a job down here, but then spent hours in the gym every day, lifting, shooting, just getting that really, that work ethic up to get into the season. And then junior year, we started being competitive. We got some games, won some conference games. Until about mid-January, we were in playoff contention. And then rolls around senior year now, and now everyone is getting in the gym. We're really working hard. This year has been the hardest working group I've been with. And I think it's really paid off this year.
Well, and I think it's a good example, too, because you're the leading scorer, the leading rebounder, but not by accident. Obviously, you put in a lot of hard work. And, Donnie, I know you've seen that of
Absolutely.
Wylie, and you've noticed the improvement on the court.
No question. And then my question was going to be is because numbers are much better this year than they ever have been. I'm more curious about how your role has changed. When you came as a freshman, you were thrown into the fire. You were going to play as a freshman. You've played every year, but your role kind of has changed, not only positionally, but in a leadership portion as well. Talk a little bit about that transition, because now you are one of the seniors and one of the go-to guys for this team, both on and off the court.
Yeah, I just think senior year is really a wake-up call last year, so you really want to put everything you got into it. And just thinking all the talent we had on this team, this is the year that we had to do it. So, I mean, it's not like I'm doing anything different. I'm letting the game come to me, playing hard. But I just think that throughout playing college basketball, you kind of understand the pace of it. It slows down a lot for you. And I don't know, it's just fun to play and fun for the progress to show throughout the journey.
Well, and you've had some fun games just as of late. You think about that game against Augsburg that we had right here on HBC, where both teams went over 100 points. It was certainly fun to watch. I know the outcome wasn't fun,
right.
But that was a wild game. Tell us a little bit about that particular game.
Yeah, it was one of those games where it was just run and gun. First half was pretty slow. We had a lot of free throws. The refs were calling it pretty tight. Second half, we came out and we felt at halftime that we should win this game. We stopped falling. We run away with it. But Augsburg's a great team. They came to play too, and we were trading baskets down the stretch, and we made a little run. And those last 10 seconds is kind of hurts to talk about, but
yeah, just quirky things that happened there. 4-point lead evaporated quickly, but you know, just I thought from a competitiveness standpoint, that was a really exciting game to watch. And you've had good competition now, not only Augsburg, but St. John's after that, and St. Olaf, and now the defending national champions in St. Thomas. So you've had good preparation, I think, coming into Wednesday's game against the Tommies.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play. I mean, it's always fun to play St. Thomas. Like you said, they're the defending national champs. A lot of the guys on our team have friends on St. Thomas from playing with them in the cities from high school. So it should be a fun game. It's about time we get a win against them and win it in the last final seconds.
You know, I think one of the things that I've seen with this team, and not just the Augsburg game, but you guys are never out of a game, no matter what the situation, and using the Augsburg game as an example, I mean, the second half, you're down 14. Very easy for you guys to just throw in the towel and say, okay, well, we're done, we can't win. But you guys don't do that, and I think that's one of the things I've seen in the last couple of years from this team is that you're going to step on the court from opening tip to that final buzzer, and you are going to play as hard as you guys can from start to finish.
Yeah, Coach always tells us it's a game of runs. I mean, we've known that since playing in high school, middle school. And the seniors on this team just never give up. And when we play hard, it seems like the rest of the team follows us. We have a lot of juniors and sophomores that really contribute to these big games we're having, especially in the wins. So,
you know, now with some of the freshmen on the team, and one person in particular who's starting to get a little bit more playing time is Eli Cave. You know, he's a big 6'7" post player. What do you see as your role being the senior and helping out some of the freshmen who clearly have a lot of potential, but they're sort of getting eased into more playing time here?
Right. Yeah, we love having Eli and the rest of the freshmen in the team. They're all extremely hard workers. They really, I mean, as a freshman, you can't ask too much of them, but I think some of them have really stepped up. And Eli's starting to play really well as of late. He's a really talented kid. It's always nice to have a 6'7" on our team instead of playing against them. But all those guys just really help, and they're really starting to help as the season progresses.
You know, one of the things I've found too with this team, especially this year, is not only are you guys good inside, but from the three-point line, you guys are deadly. When you look at, you have 15 guys on your roster, and all 15 have had at least one three-pointer. I mean, you've got guys that can throw it up. I mean, you look at James Cullen and Aaron Romport. I'm very happy with the way Aaron Romport has been playing. Kind of stepped out and really gotten a chance to kind of show what he can do. But boy, you guys can shoot the three.
Yeah, I really like when we're making threes. It really opens up the inside for me. I don't know, when we're making threes, we hardly ever are down. So that's one of our big things right now. If we're making outside shots, we're usually winning. So we
It seems like, can you talk a little bit about Coach Rustoven's role in this whole transformation? Because if you look at him on the sidelines, he's a very calm coach. You don't see him yelling a whole lot. He's very calm. It seems like you guys are prepared. You know what to do, and he's kind of there just to kind of steer you guys where you need to go. Yeah,
Coach Rustoven he's great at preparing us. We never think we come into a game and like, oh, we didn't know these guys are doing this or that. Coaches, he always has us prepared. When it comes to late games, he's always doing good stuff to keep us mentally prepared for the game, and that comes from practice, from a lot of the situational stuff we do.
So just two more questions, Wylie. The first one is, talk about the physicality of the post play in the MIAC. I think that's where I've seen some of your biggest improvement. You're not afraid to get in there and throw some bodies around, because that's kind of how the post play in the conference is, right?
Yeah. My first 2 years it was kind of rough because I've always wanted to play physical, but I really couldn't do it against some of these juniors and seniors at the time. But now that I'm a senior, I can kind of get some payback on the younger post players in the league, and it just fits my style of play, and I think that's contributed to some of my success this year too.
And then last thing, Wylie, just want to talk about you academically, personally a little bit. You're a math major at St. Mary's, so talk about your interest there and what you hope to do with that in the near future here as you get set to graduate.
I love numbers. Explains why I'm a math major. I'm also a chemistry minor. Kind of want to get into some sort of engineering after college, so maybe some grad school or a couple internships or something like that.
So with the math major, chemistry minor, do you pore over the numbers after games, before games, maybe opponents' numbers? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I'm constantly checking stats of the conference, keeping up with some of my friends on other teams, and just kind of looking. I love looking at the team stats to see where we sit compared to the other teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, great. All right, well, certainly we've really enjoyed watching you over the 4 years, and good luck the rest of this season here and in the future here as you graduate and move on to some more schooling. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. Donnie and I will be right back to preview the week ahead here on HBC. And we're here to wrap up the Cardinals Nest on HBC TV 25. Dean Beckman along with Donnie Netto. And just a minute left here, Donnie. What do we have coming up here this week? It's the men's basketball team taking on St. Thomas Wednesday, the defending national champion Tommies. But after that, some more good basketball, hockey, a lot on tap.
Yeah, it's a very busy weekend. Both hockey teams will square off against Hamlin in conference series. The men are home on Friday and then on the road on Saturday. And the women will flip that. They'll play at home on Saturday with a road game on Friday night up in St. Paul. Then swimming and diving head up to St. Paul for the McAllister Invitational. You've got indoor track going to Menominee for the UW Stout Open. And then basketball both head to Moorhead for a doubleheader against the Cobbers, the women at 1 and the men at 3 o'clock. So a very, very busy weekend of conference action, which is really what we've got now from here until the end of February.
Well, just like the track and field team, we got to run. Thanks for watching the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. Tune in again next week.